Divine Knockout lasted just 4 months before the developers went silent on social media and just completely abandoned the game. So this is a 3D Super Smash Bros. Like kind of game, so a platform fighter where you get to fight as different gods from different religions, but you were not allowed to play as Jesus. But due to a couple of bags being fumbled by Hi-Rez, you know, the people that made Smite and made Paladins, the players were just left in the dark because the company went through a massive restructuring and the players were just left with, okay, are we gonna get new maps? Are we gonna get new gods? Are you just abandoning it? Was it all a cash grab? But after a couple of months of silence, the developers made some sneaky little changes that might actually end up being what saves Divine Knockout in the end. They might actually bring back the player base, but to know how we got there, we gotta take things from the top. So Divine Knockout released in December of 2022. That's less than a year from today, and it was heavily marketed as the next big 3D platform fighter. Actually, the only 3D platform fighter, because every other platform fighter has always been 2D. And well, it was marketed heavily towards the Super Smash Bros. Players, towards the casual players as well, because the game was very accessible and very easy to pick up. And there was even like a Tim the Tatman skin, so I don't know how that translates necessarily, but yeah, that was there. And like I mentioned, the game was just really easy to pick up. You can tell it wasn't made for like the try-hard fighting game community, because you basically had a weak attack, you had a strong attack, you had 2 different abilities, 1 recovery, and 1 ultimate. That's it. There's no combos, there's no tech skill involved in the game basically. It's just mindless casual fun. And honestly speaking, coming from a guy who grew up playing Super Smash Bros. And I've just always loved platform fighters, Divine Knockout had me like instantly hooked. It was really, really fun, especially when you're playing with friends, because there was like 2v2 modes, 3v3 modes, so you had like collect coins, you had oddball, you had King of the Hill, you know, a bunch of like different modes. You did have 1v1s and you did have ranked, but those were not nearly as fun as actually getting the chance to just play with friends and just, you know, just knock each other out and have fun. The different abilities from the different gods actually make them have really unique personalities, and you know, you actually wanted to try out the different gods because their playstyles were completely different. You know, it's like every single person had their own god, you know, everyone had their own religion in the game. But you can definitely tell that the game was not made to be taken seriously. It was just supposed to be a casual game. But then people actually started taking it seriously, and that's when things started to go wrong. What ended up happening is that on release, the game had a bunch of balancing issues, and of course the developers worked hard to fix them and throw patches here and there, but there was just a bunch of kill confirms that you just couldn't get out of. You know, there was a bunch of like guaranteed kills. It's really easy for you to hit me with your ultimate, and now I'm stuck in it, and now I'm dead. Well, it is what it is. And like I've mentioned, the dev team really tried hard to make the game a lot more balanced and a much more fun gameplay experience, but that's not even like the worst thing that people were upset about. There was worse things out there that were wrong with the game. You see, the game, when it was first released, it was released as a free to claim, and that means that during the first 1 or 2 weeks that the game was out, if you got the game, it was just yours to keep. You know, it's yours forever. And you know, it made sense at the time because the game was just microtransaction heavy. You had a battle pass, you had cosmetics, and the way to unlock different gods, you had to either level up your current gods to then get these god tokens, which every time you got one, it just became harder and harder and harder to unlock new gods, or you could just buy the gods outright, and of course that's what the game wants you to do. So realistically, if you were a free-to-play player, you know, you didn't just get access to all the gods. You probably just got like 1 or 2 or 3 at max, and the rest were just, you know, you had to buy them. And you know, for a free-to-play game, you know, that makes sense. But after the free-to-claim period was over, Hi-Rez Studios made the game $25. So not only was the game riddled with microtransactions, you also had to pay $25 to even get the game in the first place, and that didn't even give you like any free gods. It just gave you access to the game. So people were just not gonna pay $25 for a game that was already riddled with microtransactions. The gameplay got kind of repetitive over time, especially if you were playing solo. There was just like no story mode whatsoever. And like I mentioned, the gods were almost impossible to unlock, and people were not gonna do that. So the people that were left to play the game were the people who got the game in the first place, and well, who was left? The tryhards and the bots. The game also had a lot of bots. And if you look at the Steam charts, the game started off averaging 3,000 players per month. You know, that for a new game, that's actually quite decent numbers. But then it just completely nosedives to the point where it is today. That's just less than 100 per day. That's terrible, man. It's like if you got the game for free, you got access to like maybe 5 gods max unless you paid money. And if you didn't get the game for free, you had to pay money to then even pay more money to get the gods, and it just didn't seem worth it, which kind of sucks because the game was actually, you know, like I mentioned, it's really fun. It's really engaging. You know, it's this nice little casual experience, and it always sucks when you see these very fun looking games just get completely paywalled and, you know, borderline unplayable because of these very same reasons. So the game started off really hot with awesome marketing, awesome gameplay, everyone was loving it. And then it had a period of just grossness because, well, no one was paying to play the game and no one was playing the game in the first place. But now let's talk about the present. And during the present times, there might be still hope for the game, because during that restructuring that we talked about in Hi-Rez Studios, the developers quietly, without even mentioning it on their Twitter or any social media, they made Divine Knockout free to play. So they actually did what they should have done in the first place, and they made the game free to play completely. Well, apart from like a couple of microtransactions here and there, but those are just normal, you know, in this day and age. And if you actually paid the $25 for the game, no refunds, buddy. No, but seriously, during the restructuring, they mentioned that Redbeard Games, the people that were in charge of Divine Knockout, they got consolidated into some other studio, and now they're entering maintenance mode. So Divine Knockout is no longer really pushing any updates or so. They're just gonna maintain the game as it is. There might be, you know, possibility for updates here and there, but, you know, if a game's not making you any money, well, you're not going to keep updating it, unfortunately. But the fact that it's free to play might be, you know, a signal of hope for people that are actually interested in playing the game, because now anyone who's ever been interested in playing the game can actually check it out for the first time, and it might be the spark that actually ends up reviving the player base. And I'm pretty sure that if Hi-Rez sees that the game's making enough money, they're going to want to put more money into it, and we'll just start releasing new gods and new maps like they should have been doing. But, you know, they went radio silent, and, you know, I understand why. And even if the game doesn't get any updates whatsoever, well, Super Smash Bros. Melee hasn't gotten an update in like probably since release, so that's completely understandable, and people are still playing it. So you might not even need an update for a good game. It might just be good the way it is. I don't know. It all depends on the people who play it and who want to check it out. So if you want to check out Divine Knockouts, if you want to play as every single god that's ever existed except for Jesus, then I highly encourage you to check it out. And well, that's all I wanted to talk about today, so I'll catch you guys on the next one.